Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Real Hazardous. Today we're going to get a look at some underwater footage of live baits with different size hooks to help you answer the question, what size hook should I be using? A question I get asked a lot is, what size hook should I be using for such and such fish? And it's a good question, definitely very important. And a lot of people think that you choose a hook based off the fish you want to catch. But I would actually disagree with that. I believe it's best to choose a hook based off the bait that you are using to catch the fish. So for example, you might be like, well, Jeremy, that doesn't necessarily make sense. Like, well, yeah, it does. If you're using a little bait, then you're going to probably want to use a little hook to match it. You say, well, what if I want to catch a big fish? Well, if you want to catch a big fish, you're probably going to use a big bait, which you can use a big hook for. Today we're going to test some live baits with 3 different size hooks on rigs. Now this is the rig that I use for kingfish. It's kind of a kingfish test, but I think it helps illustrate a point for whichever fish you're targeting. And we're also focusing on live bait. So we're using live bait, we're going for kingfish, and this test will kind of show you why it's important to size your hooks appropriately. The first test we're going to be doing is with the rig that I like to go to most in Northeast Florida when using pogies for bait. And it's what they call the stinger rig, where there's a hook in front and then a trailing hook in the back. And what I like to use is a small J hook up front and then a number 6 treble hook in the back. And you say, wow, that sounds pretty small. And I can see why people would think that. That's actually the same size treble hook that you see on a lot of bass lures, a lot of freshwater lures. If you see like a little, lure with those little treble hooks, same size I'm using to catch 40, 50 pound kingfish. And you say, that's crazy, you need a bigger hook for those big fish. Well, no, you don't, if you fight them the right way, if you fight the fish according to the hook. Now, if you'll take a look at this hook, you'll see the live bait. It's a small pogie. That's what we caught that day, small little bait fisherman Hayden. And it's swimming around pretty freely. It does really well with this small hook setup. You can see we're not trolling. It's able to swim around and move. And when we start putting in gear, it swims very good. It has a nice straight look. Looks pretty cool. This next test, we're going to use a much bigger hook. I say much bigger. It's a number 2 treble for both the nose hook and the rear stinger hook. Now, when you look at these in the store, you might say, well, number 2 doesn't look all that different than, a number 6 hook. But it is, especially to a little pogie. The little J hook is just one hook. It's more aerodynamic. It's at least a third of the weight, probably even more so. And it's not putting the pogie off balance. When I have that big hook, it goes through their nose and you got these 2 other hooks sticking out the side, which kind of makes the fish want to tilt this way. In fact, you'll see as we're trolling and the bait fish is getting a little tired or it gets a little off balance, it'll actually flip on its side. Those hooks will kind of pull it down, which isn't really natural. I mean, you don't normally just see fish flopping on their side along the surface. You'll see that the fish has less movement and this big hook is probably going to wear it out more. And then another thing to consider is this hook on this bait, it stands out a lot more. These fish are going to be able to see it pretty clearly, and if they're finicky that day, they may not bite it, whereas they might hit a smaller rig, maybe less noticeable. Finally, we tried kind of a mid-range setup. These are 2 number 4 treble hooks, one in the front and one in the back. And kind of as expected, it does allow the bait fish to swim a little bit better, a little bit less off, and it's just less visible. Now you might be thinking, well, those treble hooks probably have a better hookup ratio, and a bigger one would make me feel better when I'm fighting the fish that it won't pop out. And that's true. A bigger hook and a treble hook does have a better opportunity for hooking up, and you can put more pressure on it. But this is where it comes down to fighting the fish based off those hooks. You can catch really big fish on these small hooks. Check out this mutton snapper. Really big, our biggest mutton snapper we caught on a super tiny little circle hook for, yellowtail snapper. Or check out this big red snapper. We caught it on that first kingfish rig you saw. It was meant for kingfish, and a big red snapper ate it, and we fought that fish all the way up. With these little hooks, you have to fight based off the hook. And we're trolling, we're out in the open, these fish are going to hit it, and since we've got a small hook, we've got small line, we've got a very soft tip rod, those fish are going to take it and they're going to run. And that's okay. We're going to let them run. They're going to run. We don't have much pressure on them. They're going to get tired out. And then we're going to guide them back to the boat. It's not a tug-of-war match, not with these little hooks. We're simply turning their head and guiding them towards us. Fish don't have reverse. It's not like land animals where they can just, put their feet forward and back up, push to a stop. Fish can't do that. Sure, they might can use their little pectoral fins, and you might see them back up a little, but they can't back up with any speed or power. They have to go forward, and we're just using these hooks, that's in their mouth to drive them. And that's why when you get a foul hooked fish where you hook them in the back, they're so much more powerful. Kingfish, as well as many other types of fish, will actually stalk the bait sometimes before striking it. Actually, a lot of times I feel they'll be in your spread. You may notice a bait fish getting nervous and like, man, I wonder if there's a fish back there. We put our Go Fish Cam out, and as you can see some of these clips, the kingfish were stalking the baits, before striking them. So that tells me they're getting a good look, at this bait fish at the presentation. And if I have bigger hooks, they're going to see that. They're going to get that good look. Now, it's true. Some days, fish don't care. Some days they are just biting. They will hit whatever. You don't need fluorocarbon. You can have rope, and those fish are going to bite on that day. But other days, they're a little more finicky, a little more skittish, and having that smaller presentation may, having a stealthier rig may make the difference in you catching any fish or a lot of fish or bigger fish on that particular day. I hope this video helps you out. I hope you getting to see the baits both from above the surface and underwater gives you an idea of how this rig looks and why hook size is important. So we'll have more videos about different fish and different hook sizes to use, but just remember, you're matching your hook size to your bait and then building everything up off of that. Your rod, your reel, your line will all be based off, the hook size and that bait to catch the fish that you want to catch. If you guys have any other questions or thoughts or anything I can help you out with hook sizes and baits and stuff like that, just comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.